Some doors should never be opened, even if they lead you home. Welcome, brave listeners, to Season 6 of our tales, The Haunted Mansion. We begin tonight with a story simply called The Invitation. The letter arrived precisely at midnight, a single sheet of aged parchment sealed with unfamiliar wax. It found its way to Aria, though how, she couldn't say. The paper felt brittle, ancient, and the ink, a faded sepia, spelled out an address she'd never heard of, a mansion lost to time and memory. The invitation itself was simple, a summons, but it was the signature at the bottom that stole the air from her lungs, a name written in a delicate, looping script she hadn't seen in years. It was her mother's name, her mother, who had been gone for a decade. Aria knew she shouldn't go. Every rational thought screamed at her to burn the letter, to forget this phantom call from the past. But grief is a powerful, stubborn thing. It's a current that pulls you back to the shores you thought you'd left behind. The possibility, however small, of a connection to the mother she missed so dearly was a lure she couldn't resist. And so, under the pale light of a hesitant dawn, she found herself standing before a set of immense, iron-wrought gates. Beyond them, shrouded in a persistent, clinging mist, stood the mansion. It was a relic of a forgotten era, all dark stone and pointed spires, like skeletal fingers reaching for a perpetually gray sky. Vines, thick as a man's arm, choked the walls, and the windows stared out like vacant, dead eyes. A sense of profound wrongness hung in the air, a stillness so absolute it felt like the world was holding its breath. As Aria approached the towering oak doors, a tremor of real fear, cold and sharp, ran through her. She reached out a hand, her fingers hesitating just inches from the wood, but she never had to touch it. With a low, groaning complaint of ancient hinges, the doors swung inward, opening into a darkness that seemed to swallow the light. They opened by themselves. Hesitantly, she stepped across the threshold. The air inside was thick with the smell of dust, decay, and something else. Something faintly floral, like funeral lilies. A vast, echoing hall stretched out before her, dominated by a grand staircase that swept upwards into shadow. But it was the walls that held her gaze. They were covered from floor to ceiling in portraits, dozens of them in ornate, gilded frames, family portraits. Aria walked slowly down the hall, her footsteps the only sound in the suffocating silence. She looked at the faces in the paintings. A woman in a severe Victorian gown, a young girl holding a porcelain doll, a man with a stern, unforgiving gaze. Each subject was different in their attire, their era, their pose. But as she looked closer, a horrifying realization began to dawn. Their faces, every single one of them, was hers. The same eyes, the same curve of the lips, the same slight flaw in the brow. Generations of people she had never known, all staring back at her with her own face. It was impossible. A gallery of doppelgangers, a lineage of ghosts who wore her like a mask. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the dead quiet of the house. This wasn't a home, it was a tomb, a collection. She had to get out. She turned to flee, to run back through the doors and never look back. But just as she took her first step, a sound drifted down from the darkness at the top of the stairs. It was a whisper, soft and sibilant, yet it filled the entire hall, coiling around her like a serpent. "Welcome home, Aria." The voice was a chorus, a harmony of whispers from the past, all speaking as one. "We've been waiting." To find out what the portraits truly are, watch the full video linked right here on your screen. If you love scary stories and want more chills to keep you up at night, don't forget to follow and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the shadows.